William Clark Green, what's up, buddy? I don't know. Do you remember meeting us? Because I want to see if you probably don't. But we remembered when we were prepping for this.
Well, you give me the circumstance of where we were, I probably will. But
Well, so we were all pretty fucked up. We were. It was the suite at Soldier Field during the Whiskey Myers opening for Rolling Stones.
Yeah. God, remember how loud that shit was?
Everybody was fucked up though, so it was like it was such a good time. And we told the story a bunch though on here, but those guys like really, we thought we were gonna be sitting in the nosebleed somewhere, and they put us in there. Nicest dudes ever. And we met you maybe for 2 minutes, but we were all having a good time.
Yeah, definitely drunk. Sure.
Yeah,
that was so awesome to watch those guys. Like, I mean, when I found out about that show, I booked the first flight up there. I mean, for Whiskey Myers to open up for the Rolling Stones. And this was really like, I really don't know the terminology really, but like, I would say this is right before whiskey broke. Like right now they're on top of the world, cloud nine. Like, but I feel like this was like, and they were doing really well, but like, this was right before they were like, whoa, shit. Like, and so it was a really cool moment because those guys, I mean, even for a guy like me who has a song, She Likes the Beatles, like, for those guys to open up for them is like, I knew how much that meant to them. It meant more for them as if I was in that situation, if I was opening up for them. It meant because they were just like diehard Stone fans. I mean, that was a bucket list. And I don't know if they'd want me sharing this, but like, I just remember after the show, like they sounded so great, but they didn't have an opportunity to sound check. Yeah. And their shit on stage going haywire, and they were so down on themselves after the show because they feel like they blew it. But I was like, no, y'all sounded great. Like, y'all sounded great. But it's that whole mentality of when you're on stage, everything goes wrong. Like the listener, even me as someone, I kind of knew they were frustrated on stage, but it didn't translate. But like they sounded great, and they thought they played the worst show of their life and one of the biggest, moments. So
as a musician, what do you, when you say you could tell they were like maybe frustrated or something in general, when you see an artist, what might that be where you're a casual fan might not notice? Just like little instrument things? Or
yeah, like, so we have what we listen to in our ears is completely different than what they listen to out front. So our ears are on, I mean, there's certain frequencies and all sorts of stuff that happens there, and I'm not very educated on it. That's why my guys, they're awesome, but it could be going haywire in our ears. And like the best thing to do is just to pretend like it's not. The worst thing you can do is for people to go, oh, something's going wrong, but I don't know why. It sounds great because it's completely separated. So, but yeah, we struggle with that in the band. Like, I mean, I've got some guys that react to it poorly, and it's like, and it's like, hey, the goal is we traveled all this way to put on a show, not a temper tantrum on stage, and so like it could be going wrong, but you don't want to sacrifice what people, because they don't know, and they right. Even if it's wrong out front, when they do know, it's like, I mean, stuff happens, mm-hmm. And the best thing you can do is, especially when it happens at the beginning of the set, and you got to live with it for 80 more minutes. Like, it's one thing when it happens towards the end, but like you have to get over it, and you got to move forward, because dude, there's so many things that can happen. It's inevitable. So.
Yeah. And I would say 99 out of 100 people don't really recognize what's going on the stage in terms of like inner issues or something that's going on there. They're just like, oh, they sound great. Like half the people are drunk. Like they don't know what's going on.
Well, even like a missed note, like, it's like, it's okay. Like, don't beat yourself up about it. Like, it's, there are shows that are just these amazing moments and everything's going right and we're right in pocket. And there are moments that happens and we're just like, we're crushing it and no one cares. Like, the crowd doesn't show up. And there are moments where the crowd is huge and everything goes haywire and we have a miserable time on stage because we're just getting in your own head. But it's really hard to separate yourself from that. Like, for me too, but like at the end of the day, I mean, I really do believe that people enjoy and can relate more to the humanity of mistakes on stage, especially if you play it off. Like, I think that adds, like, being perfect. It's the same thing kind of with records too. Like, being that perfect and sounding that perfect can be kind of like a disconnect. Like, I mean, just looking back at like that Chris Stapleton record, like that Traveler record in the background, like that record is so raw and real and just great. Like it's not overproduced. It's not over, not every take was just like perfectly perfect. I mean, it's great. I'm not dogging on them on that. I'm just saying like, it's just, I think that rawness of that record is, and at the time it came out is why it was so popular, because people believed it. And I think when they believe it, they're more invested into it,
Yeah, when you have Miranda Lambert, who went out with Jack and John, recorded that Marfa Tapes record recently. It's up for, I believe it's up for Grammy. And like they recorded that more or less on a cell phone. Like, I mean, it wasn't a cell phone, but like, it's like you ever hear cows like mooing in the background, like very raw, like, the wind's blowing in, and it's just like, hey, we went out there, we had a concept of like, we're just going to record this raw, whatever happens, and it's awesome. And like the realness and the rawness of that is like what fans really connect to. So I agree 100%.
I think it got so pushed forward to super slick. Hang on just a second. My dog's whining real quick. Let me let her out.
I was over here passed out.
Come on. She definitely.
I don't know if you can see mine passed out in the background.
Is that a lab?
That's a German Shepherd and Husky mix. He's passed out.
Cool.
You can barely see him because he blended in.
I'm a puppy, so she requires a lot of attention. So, but yeah, I think that it got so slick and everything got so. I mean, there's nothing wrong with something sounding as good as possible, but like I said, I think the reality is what gets people. Like, I think that's why people love live shows. Anything can happen. It's not going to be. It's every intro and outro of every song is not going to be the same. You actually get to hear you talk. Like that stuff doesn't happen on a record, and so I think that's why live shows are so important, because it gives this reality to it. And I think the more you can connect with them on a level of, hey, I kind of am a fuck up sometimes, and sometimes we make mistakes, and I think you can turn that negative into a huge positive, but you have to react to it in a correct manner. I mean, it can go. I mean, nobody wants to see somebody have a temper tantrum on stage. If they do, it's just for their own selfish views.
Aaron Lewis. Have you seen Aaron Lewis video?
Yeah, it's like, and that's just everyone's here to have a good time and drink and escape reality for a little while. People work their asses off Monday through Friday, and their Friday, Saturday night for that period of their life where they go. I mean, a lot of people in their from 25 to 35. Live music is their weekend every weekend, until they start a family and kind of have more obligations and more opportunities. And so like they bust their ass in a job they probably don't like. And the last thing they want to hear is, they think you have the greatest job in the world, get a drink and play music. And the last thing they're going to see you have a tantrum after all the hell they've been through all week, so. Yeah.
What, real quick, do you have like, you've been doing this a while here and great live show and all that, but what's your worst moment or like the most embarrassing, or do you have like a something you're willing to share?
Oh man,
on stage.
Those questions always get asked, and I think of the greatest story always after the interview.
Oh, really?
There's a worst moment on stage,
or maybe it's even a fan moment, because sometimes we've asked about like the craziest thing you've seen with fans. We've posted some of these like ridiculous fight videos and stuff, and it's people get pretty
well, I don't know how raunchy y'all can get on this.
Oh thing, no, completely open.
This is a rated R podcast.
I don't think this. I'm pretty sure this wasn't at my show while I was playing, but it kind of went around during Larry Joe Taylor's music festival. There was a girl that the guy was pouring a beer down his chest with his pants open, and it was going down his pecker. And she was chugging it off his pecker.
Oh. I remember that. That was a couple years ago, right?
You remember that?
That was really viral on Twitter. I feel like I remember that. Oh, because I wrote an article about the Krieger beer shower, just like how awesome that is. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And then I was like, there's some other cool videos from Larry Joe Taylor Fest going around. Maybe find them yourself.
Yeah, I think the worst is like, man, it happens like maybe once a year with someone in the band, and sometimes it can be me. But like for me, I don't drink before shows. Like I drink about an hour before a show. I'll make a first drink, and then I may have a shot or two before I go on. But man, we've had guys drunk on stage, and that just sucks because it sucks because it lets everybody down, and they have fun before the show, but during the show, then they're just like, they're embarrassed of themselves. There's nothing they can do because they're too drunk. They're too drunk to put on a good show. And it's like, and we're just one of those bands. We can't do that. There are bands that can drink all day long and put on a great show. And
Wetzel.
Yeah, I think he takes his job more seriously than people think.
No, he definitely does. And he's a sweetheart of a guy. We've always talked about.
He is
one of the nicest guys.
But man,
he takes it seriously. He does.
But there are guys that can do it. And they say, the music business rule is you can't play drunk unless you practice drunk. And so there are guys that practice drunk and can play great drunk. We are not that band. We cannot do that. And I can't do it. There's a fine line of where I'm comfortably buzzed and man, I'm sure I'm like, it's like a one drink thing, honestly. Like,
well, you hear that a lot. Like tons of artists, whether it's mainstream or Texas, Red Dirt, whatever, like even Tim McGraw, I think he talked about like when he realized he stopped, he was just like, I'm just getting loaded before I go on stage, like every time. And you're just like, this probably is going to get bad eventually, to the point where people are going to be like, what the hell? We've seen it. We've seen so many shows where probably that was what was going on. But at the time, it's kind of hard to tell. You're drunk yourself and the show is awful and it's really messed up and they're forgetting lyrics and having the crowd sing them back because they can't remember the song.
There are.
And it's just like, after the fact, you're like, damn, like we paid money to see that, Like
and like I can see like one show being like, oh man, remember how drunk he was and that was funny and it was really fun. And
right, yeah.
Start seeing that the third or fourth time, you're like, man, this fucking sucks. Like I came to go, like, because there is a point where you can do it once and it's funny, and it's like when it comes like, oh shit, last time I saw him he was shit faced too and he made an ass of himself, and it's like there are people like that enjoy that want to see that, and probably their expectations too. Like, I remember before I started this business, I thought that was just a thing, like George Jones, it just fucking, you go up, get drunk and play. Like, man, but you start running an actual business, and you just can't let down your guys. Like that's my whole deal is like, I just don't let down my guys, and they don't want to let me down either, or the rest of the guys. It takes one person to really ruin the show that does that. And it's, but I mean, we definitely get buzzed.
That being
I was gonna
said,
say, it's like these conversations
after the show.
What's funny, I just realized when you were talking about like these conversations always tend to lead to like a lot of like male, like we're all men, like, and it's just like, oh yeah, the guys, they drink. It's like the women like got their shit together. It seems a little bit more when it comes to this stuff. It's like there's not a lot of stories of like, they're like, all right, we're gonna go do this, but as the guys are just like, fuck it. It like carries over until you have a kid like myself, and then you still like, you have the garage beers, you do this, you're like, oh, I'll have a beer when I'm making from furniture. It's just like we're dudes, we're guys being dudes, and sometimes it's too much. But
yeah, I think that it kind of comes down like, but it really what we noticed the transition was the van life, truck life.
Yeah,
truck and U-Haul, like golly, we kind of had to get drunk just to survive
mentally, right?
It sounds stupid to say this, but like the only way to make everyone have a good time from the shows that we were doing was like, I'm gonna get you drunk, like you're gonna make $80 a show and we're gonna get drunk and have a good time. And then we got to the van, and the van was nicer, and then we got 9 people in the van, and it was like, holy shit, this is miserable. So the only way really is to get drunk and then suffer through it the next day, where you just kind of sleep, you're in and out of sleep on the road. And then when
you make
$100, yeah, and when the bus happened, it was like we had full access to it at all times. And that's when we kind of had to be like, because we had a van, you had to get in, and it was always, you really needed to sleep. In the bus, you could kind of sleep, wake up, drink, go back to sleep. You can not always do whatever you want. And we don't have a rule on my bus, but like we kind of have like an understanding of like, hey, hour before the show, like it's not your fault. If it's before that, if you're out at dinner and you're drinking 4 hours before the show, it's because you did that. You don't have an excuse once that happens.
I like that.
Yeah. We don't have issues with that anymore, really. We really don't. I think the last time we had it, one of our guitar players it was his birthday, and he went out and he was like sitting on a speaker, like could barely sit down. It was just like The longest 90 minutes.
As the boss, so to speak, is that like a next morning like stern conversation, or do you not even have to do it because they know they fucked up?
They know.
And then the embarrassment is like punishment enough in a sense if they played poorly, and
they know. And I've complained about it so much. It's just like, and they know they're not going to get fired. So it's like, I mean, I would never pull that card. And here's the worst part is like, man, like we're finally to a point and we're having families now. It's like the show, the pay doc. It's like they always say, I'm the most mad when I don't talk. Like if I'm talking to you, if I'm talking or if I'm aggravated about something, like I'm really not that mad. I'm just frustrated. When I'm mad, it's like, yeah, I mean, there's nothing to talk about, you know. Yeah. I know. Yeah. Just fix it.
Yeah.
Fix it, you know. So
switching gears here. That was a lot of cool insight. New album coming out. I'll say today, Wes, because it's gonna come out. We're gonna release this today.
This is Thursday today. The album will be out Friday today as you're hearing this.
Baker Hotel, and I was looking at photos of the actual place, and I'm into like this. I'm not into the bad ghost shows, but I'm into that thing about haunted and really cool photos. And you kind of named the album after the hotel. Can you kind of give a background to people that have no idea what this hotel is and kind of like the mystique about it and the haunted elements and all that stuff?
So Mineral Wells is a town in between Fort Worth. It's about an hour west of Fort Worth. And Fort Worth is pretty much Dallas for anybody that doesn't know. Fort Worth is like 30 minutes west of Dallas. It's DFW. Like the Dallas Cowboys play it right between Fort Worth and.
But it's better than Dallas according to you, right?
I like it better than Dallas, yes. But I mean, there's really not that much difference. But I mean, there is. It's Fort Worth's a cowboy town. Dallas is a upscale town. So
the yuppie town.
Mineral Wells. There was this well here, and there was a crazy lady that lived here, and she drank from this well, and then she wasn't crazy after she drank from the well. So this well had like, you know, this is back in the early 1900s, like real early 1900s. So this well had like healing power. And so this guy, there was actually a sister hotel in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and it's called the Arlington. This guy built, same engineer or same architect. So this guy built this hotel here. I think his name was Mr. Baker. And people would come to this hotel they would come like on road trips. It was built in 1929, and they would come to get healing powers. Because back then, in the early 20s, there really wasn't much medicine involvement, I guess. I'm sure there was compared to the 1800s, but it had this. So people would, on their deathbed, would come to this hotel thinking it would cure them. And so a lot of the deaths that happened inside the hotel were ailments of people that came to drink the water, to swim in the pool, in hopes that it would cure them. And so it kind of had this. Throughout the years, the town had an army base come in, and then the army base, it trained all the B-17 bombers for World War II, and a lot of the helicopter pilots in Vietnam. And when it left, the town just depleted, and the Baker just just slowly digressed, I guess. And then they shut the doors in like 79, I think, and you know, people, you know, windows, threw rocks to the windows and knocked out. And then there's kind of like this legend around town of like, it's full of ghosts and it's haunted. And there's a house that's next door to it that they do haunted trips in. And like, it's got kind of that nostalgia of that. And all the kids, high school kids, would bet their buddies to go to the top and back down. And it's a very well-known thing around here. Like you break in and then you go up and like, you had crackheads living in there. And I mean, it was pretty wild. And the pictures before they actually cleaned it out is pretty. I mean, it's pretty messed up stuff. I mean,
I didn't see those.
Escort services, you know, in and out of there. It's like really weird stuff. But back in the day, the 20s, it was like when it was built, it was the nicest hotel in the country. And Bonnie and Clyde used to stay there. The Three Stooges, they performed there. Two or three U.S. presidents visited it. Marilyn Monroe stayed there. I mean, it was the nicest hotel in the country.
Wow.
And if you go back and look at the original pictures of it, it's just like immaculate. And the town is really cool. It's kind of the hotel's in this valley, and there's 2 mountain tops on the side. We call them mountain tops. They're really just like tall hills.
Big hills.
But it's a really cool town, and the town it's gone through hell. I mean, after the military base left, they had the biggest meth drug bust in U.S. history down the road from Mineral Wells, and it just kind of had a bad rap. And so when this company came in and started remodeling the hotel, the town just started getting life to it. I mean, and it's been a really cool, like, being a part of that, which was not my intention when I first did it, but like see the progress of the town and the progress of the hotel. And it really just, the town is just like, they got pep in their step. Their shops opening up everywhere. They actually have stuff going on. And like, I mean, Mineral Wells was a place that it didn't have a reputation of a place like you went and visited. It was like, oh, you live in Mineral Wells. Like, and so it's really cool to like see the town, how happy they are. It's awesome. And also to have a record out that helps promote it has been really cool. So, and all the partners have been so supportive, giving us access to the hotel. And it's really been, we were expecting whenever we did the music video that the whole town was going to tell us to pretty much fuck off.
Yeah.
And so we'd have to kind of recreate it somewhere else. But man, they welcomed us with open arms, and it's just been a great experience, man. Really.
And I'm digging in right now as you were talking a little bit because we looked up photos earlier. I'm trying to look up some of the older photos. It's some of the lines, even I guess they have like a ghost walk, get wild. And I don't know. Are you a guy that's into that stuff? Like the whole, there's a lot of shows about it, but ghosts and haunted, and
I wouldn't say I'm into it, but I definitely believe in it.
Yeah.
100%. No one has had any experiences inside the Baker. Mark, the guy that's remodeling, he's in charge of remodeling the hotel, and he's one of the partners as well. He has a sound bite of 2 foxes fucking, and it sounds like Ghost, which is hilarious. It's just 2 foxes that were in there getting after it.
So we like to clip parts of the podcast for reels and TikTok and all that stuff. That's gonna be the clip, Casey.
Right.
That's great.
But you guys were in
Wes.
there filming the music video. Did it feel kind of spooky, or if they like cleaned it up so much that it's
clean? It's cleaned up pretty well. Like the floors are swept, and like there's not any trash and stuff around. Like you see pictures, and there's 4 feet of debris that they had to clear out. I mean, and there's needles and stuff everywhere. I mean, it's just, you had the worst people in there. And but yeah, it's really crazy to go in. Like the whole hotel is made of concrete, just square concrete, and then they just put essentially rebar. It's like 1/2-inch square tubing, and they plastered it and made all these beautiful domes and all this stuff. So all that stuff is just plaster. And so that plaster just kind of falls off, and now you're exposed to like the metal skeleton. But it was really cool to kind of go through and see like how they did stuff. One of my favorite stories is on the very top, they have a cloud room. It's like the top, there's like 8 windows in a row, and it's called the cloud room. And there's a stage up there, and and they're above the stage, and I guess if you stage right, there's a little hole, and it looks like a fuse panel that has like a little door on it. And if you go behind the wall, there's like this little alley behind the wall, and there's this tiny stairs that go up, and there's a little platform. And Mark told us that back in the day, when all these mobsters would come visit the Baker, they had a guy sitting up there with a Tommy gun while the band was playing to make sure like nothing happened. And so he was there, and if anything happened,
I'm so into this shit.
Go out and start mowing people down. That's the boss guy, which is
this
just
is like
crazy.
My favorite type of I'm like into history, but like this type of stuff, like the mobster, the haunted, I love that. That's really cool. Are you gonna release that video that you guys filmed there tomorrow? Or is that already out?
The video is already out. It's been out for like a week, I think.
Okay, cool. So, and what made you kind of pick the hotel for the album? Because there's probably a theme.
Man, I really like doing extremely off the wall stuff, like, and it's just kind of like that, like, I just like the idea of people, of my fans going, what the hell is he going to do next? And so,
Mhm.
when I found, and every record has been about a Texas town.
Yeah.
And so when I kind of found out about, I started thinking more about the Baker and that whole idea. And I had like the thing in my head, like Baker Hotel, Mineral Wells. Holy shit. I mean, that rhymes. I'd love to do something with that. And just that story of kids, like this kind of, these innocent kids, like, pranking each other, trying to get up to the top, was kind of the idea. And it's fairly close to where Eastland is, where I have my farm, and it's fairly close to Fort Worth. And so like the knowledge about it was there, and it just kind of like, but yeah, I'd say the reason is every record is about a Texas town, and that was like the next story. And I knew it could be a cool creative song. Like, I don't think it's probably going to be the most popular song on the record, but creative wise, like nobody's doing shit like that. And like, I love to do stuff like that. That's kind of, that excites me. It's to have that creative outlet to kind of create this story and then put it to film and have the music back it up. Like, it's just, for me, it's just really neat to have that, as opposed to just come out with the country record with my face on the cover, and then having nothing but country songs on it, and just like, and don't get me wrong, I love that stuff. Like,
yeah.
But for me, it's like that excitement of being creative and really doing something that, I mean, this is kind of, this is my legacy that I'll leave behind when I leave the earth. And like, to do something different and creative and outside the box and kind of promote that too is really cool. It makes it more exciting, and the band gets to have fun with that because they get to play stuff they don't get to play.
Yeah.
And so, and that's kind of how those songs get made. And like Ringling Road too, it's like, be as creative as you want to be. I mean, we're not trying to make a hit. We're trying to just do something cool, something different,
Yeah, and I think too, you do such a good job of kind of kicking off the album in a sense with like, usually it seems to be like the title track, if can think about the last few, with like Ringling Road, like circus themed, kind of like this whole thing, and you're like, oh, what the hell's going on here? And then like you said, yeah, it's not an entire circus record, and then Hebert Island was another one where it was like, okay, it's a little different, it's kind of neat, and obviously with Baker Hotel now kind of following in the same footsteps. But
yeah, and it's not people always ask, are you always gonna do concept records? I mean, well, concept records would be like, I would do scary songs, the whole song, but it's just one song. It's just kind of like this unique thing. And we actually had a talk the other day about it too, and it's like, I think our next record is going to be a self-titled record. But who knows, so we had never had a self-titled record. Yeah, I mean, it's just really fun doing that stuff, and especially doing the music video. It's like at least I can say no one does what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah. The Panhandlers, we wanted to ask you about. Anything on the horizon? Anything?
Yeah, we just finished. We actually just finished our record. It's going through the mixing process right now, and we're still. We went back to Bruce Robeson still producing it. This record. I'd say the biggest change on this record from the last record was that we know what we were doing. Our last record, man, it started out like, well, Steamboat was where it started, and Josh and John Dixon's the promoter of Steamboat. We wanted to do Josh wanted to do a West Texas show of just songs written by like Joe Ely and James McMurtry and Waylon Jennings, just do a whole set of all four of us do cover songs. And then I was like, cool, well, for next Steamboat, we should just come out with a record of these cover songs and just have fun with it. And then we were like, well, shit, we're songwriters. Why can't we write our own songs? And then it was like, well, shit, now we need a name. And then it was like, and so it kind of steamrolled. So we went in for the record. We really didn't. We had some songs that we had written. We did like one song on a retreat. And we had some songs of like fellow West Texans that had written songs that we really liked that didn't get the respect that they deserved or didn't get the notoriety. Like West Texas in My Eye. That was written by Charlie Stout. That song had been out for years. And that song was on Yellowstone. That's awesome. And so this next record, and when we're in the studio, you got 4 lead singers. So like, we're pretty low on the ego train, but still, like,
I want to sing, damn it.
well, not even that. It's like everyone was so fucking timid to speak.
The opposite.
Because no one wanted to be that guy. No one wanted to be the fucking in control, like, and so really it was just like, so this record we did more writing retreats. We wanted to do more up tempo songs. I think everybody on the last record was trying to write the saddest, brilliant West Texas song ever.
Yeah.
And so this record, we wanted to, I was like, the one way we should change it up would be have more tempo songs. And we still have some of those songs too, but like there's definitely more, it's more fun. It's like that last record is, I wouldn't say hard to listen to, but it's emotionally hard to listen to. It's like, it's a lot. It's not something you really turn on when you're cooking. Like this record will be something to turn on.
That's perfect, because I always put on Texas country and stuff when I'm cooking, to be honest. I just realized, Wes, we've had everybody on in the band except John, right?
Yeah.
So we got to get John on.
John's the star of the Panhandlers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
His songwriting, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of John. Every time it comes out of the record, I always call him like, dude, this is so great. I think he writes so much like Robert O'Keefe. Like, I just think he is genius. I really do. Man, he's so great. So I'd get him on. He's
we definitely have to.
Would you call REK one of your heroes?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we played a show with them. Me and Abbott played a show with them in Midland last week. It was probably the last time that we'll see a live show of it. I've never been like an asshole backstage, but like I sat in a lawn chair and like I had people come up to talk to me, and I was like, "I'm sorry, dude. I'm watching this show." Like, I sat there and drank and just enjoy. He played all the songs I wanted to hear too. He played a great encore, and yeah, I mean, it's just, he's a legend.
I feel like me and Steve have been to enough shows and been backstage at enough shows where I always find it, and we've seen enough artists where like I always find it really, really respectful when someone like yourself is like, oh yeah, I'll take a picture in a minute, but like let me watch who is either headlining or who is opening. Like I think it's really cool when a headliner watches like their opener perform and stuff like that. And then even obviously you want to learn from the headliners as well if you're an opener, especially for someone like that. But so I always think that's really cool. I'm like, oh, that guy, the fan who wants an autograph or whatever might think you're an asshole, but like I always find that really like cool and respectful.
Because it's the craft. You talk about, it's the craft, right? You're zoning in or honing in on what matters. Why we're all here.
There weren't many fans back there that show, but it was really just like my buddies in other bands. Like it was like I was like, hey, we talk all the time. Like this is the last time. Like, and I thought his speech, like his retirement speech, was so well crafted and just like I just couldn't imagine it being done a better way. I just thought his whole post was just like so elegant. It was his words were so well thought out, well put together. You could tell how much it meant to him and how much the past years had meant to him. I think one of two things are my prediction. I think either there's something going on we don't know about, or he's not going to quit. Like I just, that's kind of the two things I have. But I mean, he's provided so much for foundation for us, and also just being a fan growing up. I mean, it is Robert Earl. I mean, I walked by him. He was smoking a cigarette outside his bus. And I walked by him, and I wasn't, expecting for him to say anything, but he said, he goes, William Carlos Vernon. And I go, in my head, I was like, I don't know if he knows my name. And I don't know if he thinks that's my name, or if he doesn't know my name and he's trying to play it off like he really does by saying something so ridiculous, or he's just
That's smart. That's smart.
And I can't even talk to him. Like I felt like such an asshole or an idiot because I tried talking to him, but I can't even talk to him. Like, it's just like, he's very comfortable, and I can't even talk to him. Like I just, I wish I could. I wish I wouldn't have ruined that moment, but
He just kept going.
I couldn't talk to him that much. I just tried to ask him some questions, and I was like, well, I better go sound check. And then it's just like, yeah, I wonder if he knows that how we feel when we talk to him. Like that,
I mean, you're continuing the legacy though of guys with 3 names like in their full name, so that's something too, you know.
Yeah, I had to interview some guy. It was probably the worst interview I've ever had. It wasn't for this.
Name him.
I don't remember who it was. It was for some small town newspaper, and the guy had no clue who I was, which didn't bother me that he didn't know who I was, but he didn't know anything about it at all. And he goes, William,
sounds like some sites we know.
And he was asking me like these really pretentious questions that were just pissing me off. And he goes, William Clark Green. So he goes, you're either he goes, so what are you, like some kind of serial killer? And I just go, well, I bet you'll find out.
What kind of question is that? Or a comment?
Just like man,
they got some like 21-year-old kid like working at like I don't know who it was, but like I just picture it, the type of person that would ask that question.
Right.
I think he's like, oh, I'm gonna be funny off the cuff, and it's like we try to do that too, of course, like, but
it's just
find your spots.
Like, what can fans expect at your show? And it's like
music.
I have no
music,
idea
you dumb motherfucker. Music.
I mean, I hope they have fun. Like, that's definitely a goal. Like, I have no idea what they expect. Like, I've been talking to them.
Like, one of the springboards that made Whiskey Riff get big, I swear to God, with what you just said, was us stopping the bullshit interview. We were just like, this is so dumb. Are you excited about your new album? No, I'm just fucking miserable. I'm just sitting here fucking miserable. It's like, what kind of questions do people get asked? And we just kept seeing it on all the big sites, and we said we're gonna just come in and like railroad everybody, and we did, like, because people want to see the person, like the stories, the cool moments, like.
And prior to COVID too, we would have everybody only come in office so we could hang out, we could drink beers, we could shoot the shit. And we're like, that's such a better way for someone to do an interview. And like, we would have some artists come in here a little tight and like, what am I getting into? Where am I? And then they like, oh, we start cracking beers and you say a couple fucks and then everyone loosens up. And it's like,
it's
all right, we're having fun.
Yeah. It's like the Joe Rogan approach. It's like, I mean, that's what people like. That's the whole thing. This all boils into what we were talking about earlier about records being raw and real. It's like, dude, like you think about Garth Brooks, George Strait, that kind of stuff in the back. Like everything was like they did, which obviously is great, but like there really was not much access to them until Garth started retiring and had these interviews where he started breaking down emotionally. Yes. and like
oh my God, yes,
people love that stuff, you know, and so those questions just like I just feel like those.
We got to talk about Garth crying.
And those expectations from fans of like hearing every interview and having the PC answers. It's like, I think that's why Joe Rogan's so popular. I think that's why y'all are so popular, because it's like, dude, no one gives a fuck, like at all.
Thank you.
At all. No one cares.
No, like Wes has said this so many times, like fans don't even know what the number one song is, but the label's promoted as like, nobody gives a shit. Like are you good? Do you have Grassroots fans or do you not? Parker, when we had him in the Park McCollum, when we had him in the office, it's like, can you put asses in the seats or not? That's it. Like, do you have fans or not? And a lot of these people that are promoted don't have fans.
You know, like
a lot of these major label artists in Nashville get every easy into a playlist on Spotify or this or that, and they still cannot sell 500 tickets.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I mean, come on, like
tell me fucking about it. I mean, I mean, we've been, you know, it's to be in a bus where we're at, and to be able to have the career we have, which is, man, it could be bigger. I mean, for sure. Like, I'm not sitting here bragging at all, but like, we have busted our ass playing every town across the country. meeting fans, and that's why that stuff is so important. That grassroots stuff we've done, and it's, you know, we spent the first 10 years, you know, getting drunk after shows and hanging out with everybody, and it gets to a point where you're playing so many shows, like you can't you can't live
do
that
that.
way. But man, it's just like to have that. It's really just for us. It was like, well, I mean, our mentality was, well, if we don't go, it won't happen. So
Right. Like there's no plan B, you know, and like that's kind of
no, like, well, there's no marketing structure scheme, or there's no label, there's no radio support, major radio support. Like it is just like, well, let's just go and see what happens.
Well, and then you earn fans in every town you play. And even if you get 5 new fans in every town, you play 200 shows a year or however many, 150 shows a year. All of a sudden you have, you know, you have a few thousand really, really loyal fans. And then the next year you have 5 to 10,000 really, real loyal fans. And next thing you know, you have, you know, a few 100,000 loyal listeners that are buying albums, they're coming to shows. And next thing you know, you got a real career as a country music artist, you know?
The one thing that just drives me crazy about the major record label deal, and I don't know even who's to blame, or if I could be completely wrong, but it always seems like, say what you want about Florida Georgia Line, right?
We don't.
What they did was different, right?
Yeah.
And the reason it got so much success is because it was different, and no one had really heard that before. What really pisses me off is the carbon copies that come after.
Yes.
And it's like, well, now you even made it worse. Like, so Florida Georgia Line, like them or not, like there's a couple of their songs I'm like, fuck yeah, this song's awesome. Like there's some songs I'm like, oh, I don't want to listen to it. They know that. Trust me, I know that about my music. Like there's songs that you don't, that they're not gonna like, and I get it. But like what drives me crazy is the feast of all the coyotes that just want to come latch onto that sound, and they create it and they do the same fucking thing. And it's like,
he's preaching to the choir. We've talked about this so much on here.
Yeah. Well, and then like Sam Hunt came along, and then it was like, all right, let's get this good looking guy to do the Drake country thing. And then Stapleton blows up in 2015. And it's like, all right, let's get big guys with beards and big voices to like do that. And, you know, it's like,
you turn on the voice. God forbid you turn on the voice, but like you turn it on, and then they're like, it's just a parade of big boys with big beards.
And like,
it's like,
next
come on.
country star.
Like Luke Combs is another example. Oh, we need the guy that looks like he can work at the Jiffy Lube, because Luke Combs has talked about that. Like,
it's crazy. Like, it's crazy how copied it gets. And watch, like it happened. And then what really drives me crazy too is the artists, the bigger artists that have been around for years start releasing music that sounds like it. And I'm like, what do you? But watch.
McGraw has fallen into that a few times.
I guarantee there's already
Keith Urban.
Yeah. I guarantee it. There's already going to be Parker McCollum clones and Co Wetzel clones out there, because their numbers are crazy, and they're going to try to clone the shit out of that. Yeah. And they're going to, that whole sound is going to, and that's why I love what Luke Combs did, is because it was different and it was real. Like, dude, like Luke Combs, and then the carbon copy after that, like, it just, what drives, I don't mind. It doesn't make me so mad when someone does something so different. And it's like, people might not like it or think it's country music. Like what really bothers me is like all the people that just are wanting it so bad, they'll do anything. It's like, you'll find me the complete opposite. So I love that.
It applies to what we do too. Honestly, that's why I like hearing it, because you see the copying, you see the ripping off game, and you're just like, keep trying. You're always second. You're never gonna be ahead.
Right. And then by the time you get good at copying somebody, even if it's just decently good at it, the next thing is already there. And it's like, okay, now you're 5 years old. You're 5 years too late.
No, like Zach Bryan's a great example too, who's incredibly talented. And it's like, now we're gonna look at, we're like, okay, we gotta find the next guy that's gonna have that like different background, Johnny Cash vibes or whatever the hell it is. It's like, no, the talent is the talent. Like you can't formulate, which they try. It's like a lab. It's like a easy bake oven. Put your shit in, it pops out, and they hope that they have the next, you name it. And it's just like, I mean, like Luke Bryan, who's on American Idol now, like promoting these people. It's look at his like first album. You're like, this is pretty good. It's not bad. Like I don't mind this. And then as time went on, he as a man with children and is like approaching 40, singing about spring break. It's like, because that's the thing now, you know. And I think fans that are smart music fans like start to see through that and get annoyed with it, and then start to gravitate towards an artist like yourself or people.
And that was my biggest argument I think it was when all that stuff started. I mean, I guess it's been kind of happening. I mean, even the 90s country guys, I mean, the 90s country guys all kind of sound the same, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You know, and we all love that music, but they all have kind of formula that one guy did. And that's why Garth Brooks was so huge. I literally just did an email interview about this, and this was my prediction about Garth Brooks. He made rodeo electrifying. He brought like Leonard Skinner into Chris Ledoux and like combined them. Like this, you know, that song Rodeo was huge, and that was like this. It made rodeo life exciting. Before that, it was cowpoke songs. I mean, there really wasn't like, but he was this difference. He was this big difference, and I just, it's. For me, it's like, you know, what the fuck do I know? But for me, it's just like my head hits the pillow at night, very good, and
right,
and sleep well. And I try to do it the most creatively and the way I do things. I want, if someone does something what we would, when there might not be anybody in the world that's interested in copying what I'm doing, but I can call it my own, and I love that. I love that aspect of it. I love being independent. I just always told I've never done an outside cut, and I wouldn't even do it if I had to sing other people's songs. I just wouldn't even do it. I mean, that's the one thing the one thing I love the most is creating a song from nothing, and especially like a song like Baker Hotel, like create it from an idea. And watching all this stuff kind of happen and seeing how many people it can affect in a town and a community, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. Like that's the right way to do it, I feel like. And but that's the path I chose. That's my passion, is writing the song and seeing what it can do, being a part of the creation of it, and then seeing, you know, I was talking with Josh Abbott about this other day. He was kind of having a hard day, and I was like, man, you know, what you got to realize is what we do is, you know, we make people happy. There's a lot of jobs out there that don't have that ability for people. Like, people are excited to watch us perform or to listen to our music. Like, what we're doing for the world is a good thing. Like, we're making it better by what we do. Like, that's awesome. Like, there's not many jobs out there that you can really say that's what you do on a daily basis. Like, you know, our everything we do is positive in that light. And like, dude, I'm so proud to leave that behind. And I'm proud to leave it behind in a real original way. And he told me, he's like, I never thought of it that way. I was like, yeah. I was like, could you imagine working for the fucking IRS where all you do
people hate you, like,
is destroy lives, and people can't stand who you are and what you do. Like, dude, like, we have the most genuinely awesome thing. We create music for the world. Like, that's awesome. Like, I mean, you know, I might not have that many listeners on it, but like, still I mean, I get messages all the time about like how a song has helped them through a hard time, or my mother passed away and your song. I mean, I get a lot of those, or This Is Us. I get a lot of, hey, this is our song when we met, we saw your show and we're in love. And like, it's just like, that's all good stuff. It's positive stuff.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah. So, I mean, that's just like that for me is what it's really about. Like, the legacy you leave behind on this planet, and mine is creating music for people. And it might not be the most popular music, but I feel like I'm putting out quality stuff.
But it's honest and it's you. Yeah, exactly. And to your point, like, for us, we always bring this up with new employees and stuff. It's like, to like feel what we do as a brand at Whiskey Riff. And Wes and I will both say the same thing. It's like, when we meet people, we met a guy at a bar who was like, when I was like stationed in Afghanistan and I was fighting and a Marine, he's like, your site just like keep me entertained, or your playlist kept me going. Like, we're like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like that, we're having that like reach makes everything else, finances and accounting and like just, we did something that like made somebody feel better.
And that's what's so amazing about it, is because the record labels really don't have control over that anymore.
Yeah.
They used to kind of control the way it was, you know, the way it was presented. Now with the internet and stuff like what y'all are doing, like, dude, if you're looking for something, you can find an outlet for it, and it's like you can kind of find your path. We get people that listen to our music and they're like, you know, I just don't like country music, but I love y'all's show, you know. And I'm like, welcome, you know, we love you for that. People who love country music and are just like, hey, not a huge fan, that's fine, you know. That's 100% okay. Like, I am not the guy, trust me. A song like Ringling Road or Baker Hotel, or we are not trying to break down, we're not trying to go back to the roots. I mean, we're just trying to be as creative and put out fun stuff. I mean, I've never claimed to be that. And it's just kind of the world we live in. The country music world is definitely like, well, sure, it's definitely not the pop world. So that's kind of where all the stuff kind of happens in that realm, you know. But yeah, it's just, but then again, I listen to the radio and I'm like, this is fucking pop.
The fuck is this?
I don't even know why they like, this is not country.
Right.
But
No,
at all. Like, I mean, I'm not sitting here down on the hill saying I'm the most, but that's why Kojo's, you know, his song went number one.
Yeah.
And my post was like, it should be.
Right.
It should be. It's a great
about fucking time. Like,
it's a great country song. Like there's no one can argue with, like, there's not anyone that can argue with that song shouldn't be the number one country song. It's a great country song. So I just, like I said, I just create and let everybody else figure it out. So, but I love what Kojo does, and he's great. Yeah. Whole fight on making country music, you know, traditional, and he's got a little bit of that Garth Brooks in him too.
Randall, I would say Randall King just dropped an album, a major label guy. Fucking awesome. Just phenomenal. Country music, country's dirt, like so damn good. And then he was I think he was at the top of the charts last week when it came out. And it's like, you have Kojo number one on the radio. You got Randall King number one on an album. It's like, maybe we're coming back. Like, I don't know.
Hey, I think Randall is no one loves country 90s. I don't think anyone loves 90s country music more than Randall King. He has a song. We wrote a song on my new record that I begged him and his manager to put on his record. It's called Love to Hate. And I begged them to do it. And it just, it wasn't for the record. And I understand that. And I was like, I really was like questioning. I pitched it to a couple people too, because I was like, I don't think this is a song for me. And then I was like, fuck it, I'm fucking putting this song on. So I just loved it so much, and I was like, well, if I love it that much, it should be on my record. So, but yeah, Randall has a cut on my record with me, and I'm just really, really, really proud to have me and him collab. He's written some really great songs. Yeah. Man, there really isn't a guy that I'm wishing for more success than that guy. His voice is gold, and goddamn, if that dude ain't country music, I don't know what is. I mean,
right. And before we let you go, because you mentioned the Garth thing again, I had the same thought with Kojo there. And speaking of Garth, you mentioned earlier the emotion, and why does he cry so much? What is going on here? Like every interview he does now, and every Inside Studio G, he's crying. Do you think he's taking it too far, and his team is scared to tell him, Garth, let's just turn the emotion down a little bit?
I think he's just an emotional guy. I just, you know, I think he's, you know, fuck you. I ain't never met a songwriter in my life that doesn't wear their heart on their fucking sleeve, you know? So, yeah, I just think he's an emotional guy. And I think that comes out on stage. Like, you watch his stage performance, it's extremely
choreographed.
I was gonna say animated, but but I think that's who he is.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. Is like maybe he's just like a guy that's a little like, whoa, this guy like is a little theatrical. Yes.
I can see that. I can see
But
that.
have you seen but the Facebook video was the greatest video of all time in the history of the internet when he's in a hotel room talking about joining Facebook. You know that video.
Have you seen that video?
What is it?
There's a video of him like when he first joined Facebook back in I think 2014, and he's just like in a dark hotel room and it's just his face, and he's like, "It's official, I'm on Facebook," and it's just like 2.5 minute like.
It's like you let your dad post something.
I'll send it to you after.
Dude, after we hit, I can't believe you haven't seen this. After we stop recording, we'll get your number and text
I'll get your number and I'll text it to you. But it's the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. And he's like,
and then
I don't want to ruin
this
it.
whole team with like Tom Segura, the comedian, started trolling him, and that they got to like block his comment. It like this became this whole thing. So we should send him the article about the bodies too.
I'm still extremely confused, and this kind of happened before the internet, but like the Chris Gaines thing, like has that ever been like? Do we know what really happened there?
He just talked about it. He's like, I might bring it. He's like, I might bring it back.
What?
There
was it him or somebody else trolling him, or like was it a legit like I still don't know what happened.
There was supposed to be a movie, like a documentary or like something or other about a Chris Gaines character that Garth was going to play. And the movie never came out, but he like made the album and they released the album. And then they did a fake documentary where he's like a sex addict and he got in a car crash and a plane crash and like all this shit. And he does the whole. I'll send you the documentary too. It's
on VH1, right?
It's like behind the music.
He's just like, man, I just love sex.
He's like,
it's so weird.
When I got in a car accident, I was worried I could never have sex again. I don't know what I would do without.
So he is Chris Gaines in the
it's
acting?
him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's him. It's him acting. He wanted to be an actor a little bit.
There was supposed to be like a movie.
I could just see your brain is just.
I'm just curious, like. It just doesn't make sense to me because I'm just curious if it was like a mental breakdown and this is just like the cover up of like this is all the whole cover up of the breakdown.
Well,
like
because you're going towards a role like Joaquin Phoenix did that when he was playing that. He was going on all these late night shows and he's being super weird.
Yeah,
and that was part of a fake documentary where he's playing a guy. Okay, but that's like I think he's won awards, but like an award-winning one of the best actors. Like. When Garth does it, you look back, you're like, what the fuck? What's this? But one of his pop songs that he released, I think went
number one on the pop charts.
Number one, yeah.
Do you remember the Dr. Pepper song? How do I love? It was like one of the first songs he came out with in a while. The song was fucking awesome.
I don't think so.
No.
It was it was like the Dr. Pepper like commercial. It was really good song.
Dude. Well, that's a great place to stop it. And after we stop recording, we'll get you the info. But William Clark Green, new album out, Baker Hotel, go get you some. And really quick, I know you aren't you raising money, your farm, for something? You want to plug that before we go?
Sure. I mean, everything is, we have a foundation up in Lubbock for our music festival, Cotton Fest. We have a foundation called the High Cotton Relief Fund. And what we do is we raise money for cotton farmers that go through, pretty much to boil it down, what we do is if a cotton farmer during stripping season, which if you're not familiar with stripping season, it's pretty much like the harvesting of cotton. If a farmer dies or gets hospitalized, like this is kind of a broad thing, but what we do is like all his neighbors and his buddies will come help strip his cotton for him. What we'll do is we'll send a diesel truck and we'll fill up all the tractors because it's, those tractors hold quite a bit of diesel, so it's not for someone to help a hand. It's so we'll bring a diesel truck out and fill everybody up, and so we're also constantly evolving. And so with all the fires going on in Eastland, we're sending I think $36,000 worth of just ranch equipment like T-post, barbed wire. We're sending some cubes for cows. We're sending some protein tubs, and just to kind of help out. And we try to help out in unique ways as opposed to we're trying to help out people who are already helping out, pretty much is what we do. So, a lot of those ranchers, the supply chain is so fucked. And so it's just getting, we had to buy all of our stuff in Dalhart, which is 400 miles away. And then we have to ship it down to Eastland County. So, but yeah, I mean, we're trying to do something a little different with that by just helping out people who are really already helping people. Because especially in those small communities in West Texas, something bad happens, you're not gonna show up with a freaking knight in shining armor. Like people are like, they just go to work, like they help out where they can. Like there's nothing you can do. All you can do is try to help make it easier on the people who already know what's going on. And I had struggled with that too. It's like, having a farm in Eastland, the fires came through. It's like, I couldn't find a way to help. Like I asked all my buddies, like, is there anything I can help with? And they're like, man, there's nothing we can do. The fire's moving 40 miles an hour. Like, everyone that really knew, like, you don't want a guy out there on a horse or that is not extremely well educated at doing that, like, which would be me. Like the last thing you want to do is, that. So just finding unique ways to help is kind of what we do, especially, outside the situation, and just showing relief, a little bit of relief. So, to people who are already busting. So
love it. Perfect spot. William Clark Green, amazing. New album, go get it.